Space, the final frontier.
These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission
to explore strange new worlds,
to seek out new life
and new civilizations,
to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Welcome, Planeteers. Space, the final frontier. I don't think any other pop fiction, science fiction movie has ever put the relationship between space and man in a better words, and how these words have stood the test of time. Every time I listen to these, it just takes me on a journey to the beyond. And what amazes me more is the journey that we have covered in the past 120 years or so. Like in 1905, man first took off its feet from the ground, and then it never looked back. And not only we've conquered Moon, now we've conquered or about to conquer Mars and colonize it. And the journey is just at the sleeper or like the initial stages. The space race has started, and two of the richest men on the planet are on loggerheads. While both of them eventually want to establish human society outside the Earth, the approach and plan of action vary a great deal. In one corner is Jeff Bezos, and in the other is Elon Musk. And in this video, we will discuss their visions and how and who will eventually be the last man standing, or rather, floating since its space. Elon Musk, through his company SpaceX, has plans to make humans multiplanetary species, starting from Mars, which means first finding suitable planets like Mars that are similar to Earth, and then establishing cities there with artificial atmospheres, and life in such societies will be confined to the four walls of the citadel. And his aim is to first do this with the first colony in 2030s by building that on Mars. Jeff Bezos has a slightly different vision, not slightly, like a drastically different vision, which is in steps. And first step is to improve the Earth, like improvement on Earth by making it only for residential purposes, which means using other planets to establish bases for manufacturing and other such polluting activities, and also use these planets to mine and extract resources, which would further reduce the exploitation of resources on Earth. His vision will lead to development in advanced robotics to handle production on different planets, and development of heavy transport medium to help move produced goods around. And finally, it aims to use this advanced robotics and transportation capabilities to develop artificial cities in space, not on planets, but in space, which will control every aspect from weather to gravity and ambience, everything. So let's just compare the two visions now, and how they differ, and which one is better. And these are again personal views, and there are experts out there who may have a different opinion, and I'm welcomed for their opinion as well. So first point, Musk's plan takes humanity too early out of Earth. And this is troublesome because first, there has not been enough testing and knowledge gained. And also, even if successful, we would stop valuing Earth and then the other planets we colonize. Because it's easy to colonize planets now, planets are readily available. And this would mean we would continue to exploit the next planet we inhabit, and next, and next, and not change our behavior, because there might always be a different planet available to colonize. Well, Bezos' plan does not lose hope on Earth. By moving all manufacturing and mining activities out to space, the Earth would be a better place, and it will increase our time here, while in the meantime using robots that have been sent out to study space and planetary behavior, and then gather enough data and big enough sample size to make informed decisions. Point number 2. Musk's plan is heavily dependent on availability of potentially inhabitable planet, and once we colonize Mars, the options are pretty much limited. Until we don't establish warp speed or something similar to reduce time for space travel, the options get exhausted very soon. While Bezos' plan attempts to use the empty space which is available in plenty and in vicinity of Earth and use them as satellite towns, which can then be multiplied in numbers. Number 3. Habitable planets are not easy to find, and eventually, when they will spread out, they will lose touch with Earth because they will be at a much larger distance. They will be spread out, spaced out, and distance between them will be much higher. Which means the human species will survive, but its legacy will eventually fade away because, as I mentioned, traveling to and fro is tedious and connections will break also. Because there will be no reference, as life in these cities will be very different to what humans have on Earth. Well, ambience of Bezos cities will be modeled similar to Earth cities, and not only of present times, but also historical cities. You could go back in time, imagine living in those times, but still in a modern way, which will not only save humanity, but also save its legacy, and which would keep the curiosity about it and its culture alive. And Earth will continue to be an aspiration and a place where people would like to go, more for tourism now, and eventually we would be a living museum where people will live also, but will be a place or an aspiration for others, people spread out across the galaxy or the space to go and visit. Number 4. Because the life in Musk cities will be very confined and it will be very difficult for other species to be accommodated, which means the wildlife on Earth, which means giving up on the entire animal kingdom and all of Earth's species to a rotting planet, which is in such a state not because of their fault. While Bezos plans to establish artificial cities separately and use them as dedicated national parks to keep all the species alive. So you will have floating national parks also where you can keep these species alive as well, and then have floating farms, floating poultry and all that stuff, and not be confined to machine-made or artificial stuff. Number 5. Elon cities will be dependent on the planet's geographical behavior, and this is a very important point, which is then prone to natural disasters that plague that planet and be at its mercy. And one random earthquake may destroy everything, and help may not arrive on time because of premature space travel tech. While Bezos cities are free from all this, the weather, the climate, everything can be controlled right to gravity. And since these cities will be formed at a much later stage when robotics and mass space transport would be at a much advanced stage and in a much better position to respond and resolve any situation quickly. One thing that Elon cities have is that they will be easier and simpler to build, which would mean easier repairs and maintenance, while Bezos cities would be very complicated on that front. I mean, floating cities on space and everything built and controlled by human, even fiddling with complex phenomena like weather and gravity makes it risky. And one human error or miscalculation can bring entire structures down. 7th, the overall living standards would also be very different. Bezos in its first phase would first make Earth itself a better place to live, cleaner, efficient, and more freedom. While Elon cities might be high-tech in the sense that they're established on a different planet, but there will be so many more compromises made to live in these confined spaces in which the dwellings will be established, and they will not be able to match the lavish lifestyle that one is used to on Earth, not anytime soon. Bezos cities, when developed, will come very late in the picture, and once they do, they will be able to cherry pick everything good of Earth and replicate it, enhancing living standards manifold. Imagine controlled population, controlled traffic, no rains or thunderstorms or cyclones, while chance to live in ambience modeled on ancient cities or contemporary cities or even future science fiction ideologies. Other than these plans, what I really fear and predict and see coming is a lot of dispute and wars, and this might be questionable for too many people. But one thing that history has taught us is more differences that have been developed in humans, they have always led to major disputes, be it difference of ideology, religion, or borders. And by dividing humanities on different colonies, be it living on different planets or different floating cities, The fight for control of resources, command, and control is imminent. One thing I hope that does not happen is that these companies become owners of these colonies. That would be too much power to be put in hands of one company or individual. Private ownership of these would lead to no accountability and how these can on how these colonies are managed and handled, making it a dictatorship type regime fueled by capitalism because power always corrupts individuals. In the end, I would say that none of them is going to be a clear winner. Both of these visions come with their own sets of challenges and benefits, but one thing is for certain, the future will not be modeled on the vision of one person. The visions will merge, adapt, learn from each other's mistake, and then customize the approach going forward. The future would be an amalgamation of not only of these two visions, but many more that will come up in near future. As space tech gradually becomes more affordable to experiment with and eventually takes priority. And one thing would be the winner would eventually be, and I'm hoping would be the survival of the species. Please comment what you think about this. Whose side are you on? Who do you think has better vision for the future? Keeping aside the popularity of an individual and just focusing on core ideas because it is for the sake of humanity. And comment below. I really would like to hear what your thoughts are. And if you're liking this content, please like and subscribe and share because these are important topics and I really aim to develop a discussion and a conversation going about these and spread information about these. So hoping to have a discussion in the comment section. Until then, live long and prosper.